Hello everyone, this is Carrie with Steel Roots Market, and I am so glad you're here with me today. I'm excited to share this little project with you. I'll be honest, I didn't sit down planning to make this project. Yesterday I walked into my craft room determined to clean. I was ready to finally scrub down that silicone mat and tackle this mess. But as I stood there, my eyes landed on something that stopped me. The brand new Autumn Harvest stamp set from IOD. Oh my goodness, I just love this set so much. I hadn't even prepped it yet, and just in that moment, cleaning did not feel nearly as important as creating. With my job right now and running a small business, I don't get a lot of time just to create, so I was not going to pass up the opportunity. Sometimes inspiration just calls like that, doesn't it? You step into this space with a plan, and instead your heart nudges you towards something more interesting, something that fills your heart. And that is what slow crafting is for me. Letting go of the rush, leaning into the season, and just enjoying the little moments. I am all about autumn right now. I want to savor it, I want to enjoy it, and I want to create with it. So instead of cleaning, I picked up the small little rectangular MDF. I'll talk more about that a little bit later, but it's just one of those leftover inserts from a larger frame. It's something that some people just might toss aside, and you hear me say over and over again throughout my videos, keep those little inserts or the little centerpieces that come when you order your DIY surfaces from my shop, because they just have so much potential. So when I looked at it, and I had been wanting to do a project for a while, and I'm like, this is it. I am creating my vintage postcard with this set today. So that's what I was excited to share, and I hope you guys get some inspiration from this and see the possibilities of what I create, how you can create it into all the different seasons. So I start off by preparing the base. I just add a few coats of an antique white chalk paint. The color is nice, soft, and warm, and it already makes it feel like it belongs in autumn decor. I wanted something vintage, of course, to replicate, and just gonna go with it and see where it goes. So the MDF, just like I always try to mention in my videos, especially the ones that have the laser burned edges, you have to work with how you want your finished piece to look. You might want to cover it with primer first and then paint, or let that laser burn peek through naturally, because it gives it an aged look or a vintage look. It just all depends on your preference. So on this piece, I added a few layers of paint, and then I do come in with a sea sponge, which I love to do, and I pounce that in to give a little texture, especially in a thicker layer of chalk paint. I just really like the way that looks. Excuse me. The way it looks and gives it some texture. And I was trying to replicate a vintage postcard, so like a very aged paper. And sometimes the older postcards had some embossing or texture to them, so I went ahead and did that. So that little bit of unevenness adds character. like something that has been tucked away in someone's dresser or journal or scrapbook. And I do dry this, as you see, in between coats here. So now it's time to get the base prepared. So next I come out with my JRV stencil. It's an antique postcard image, and I will be pairing it with Heavy Body Gel by Pentart. And this little stamp, or stencil, excuse me, is in a set of 3. I believe it's a set of 3. It's by JRV, and it is actually a Christmas set, and you are going to love the images. I believe I have a couple in the shop still, but I do have more ordered. There is some beautiful Christmas designs in this, and you will love it if you love a vintage decor. So go ahead and take a palette knife if you're applying this, and I just put it right through the stencil and then scrape away the excess. It's very easy. It gives it beautiful dimension, and if you are using the Pentart Heavy Body Gel in glossy, it does dry clear once you let it dry. You won't be able to tell that on this, but if you have the matte, it is more of a milky color, but you're able to paint them and tint them. There is a black shade also too, but I really enjoy working with stencils with this. It really gives a nice raised design that you're able to have great dimension with. And just a tip, if you're using this, make sure you wash your stencil right away. The gel can act like glue if it sits too long. This is Heavy Body Gel is something a lot of us makers will use for gluing pieces on, mixed media, all kinds of things. You can use it in molds for castings and things. You make sure you get your stencil washed right away, and if not, at least wipe it down real well with a wet wipe, or maybe bring in a little container with some water that you can put your stencils in until you can leave to clean them. And I will show you another picture here of close-up of what that looks like. It came out really sharp and pretty. Okay, you're going to let it dry, and it doesn't take long. And then another tip is I used a hair dryer. I love using a hair dryer versus my big heat tool. I can control the heat a little bit better. You can use the heat tool, just be careful that you don't get it too hot. But we're ready for the next layer of play. So, stamping the design, and now is the fun decision of picking the stamps and how you want to lay them out. I do have this set available in my shop. I think it's a beautiful set to have that you will get so many projects from. But I could not resist the little turkey. He feels so perfectly tied to the season, and it's a beautiful symbol for abundance and gathering and being thankful. And so I chose that and a couple other little elements, and I take a little bit of time trying to make my decision on how I'm going to place them out. And as you saw in the beginning of the video, I did condition the stamp first, but now that that's done, I will not need to do that any longer. And if you're new to IOD, this step is important. A quick sanding helps get the ink to cling well and get the real good impressions crisp when you're stamping. So I take a moment here just trying to make my decision on layout. One other thing I want to mention is think of all the possibilities of the stamping projects you could do with this. IOD just came out with all those gorgeous holiday stamps, such as Christmas wishes. Sugar plum would be so fun and cute. Of course, you've got Christmas post, and then there was also holly and pine. Those images would be beautiful to create little postcards, vintage postcards. So for the ink, I almost reached for my distress ink, but then I had found an old Versamark in the shade Sepia ink pad from my paper crafting days. I hadn't used it in years, and I tested it on some scrap paper and it was perfect. It was a perfect shade. You'll see here in a moment a nice rich brown, but it just gave a vintage feel, and that's exactly what I wanted. Here you can see how that image is going to look. I do suggest always having a little scrap paper to the side to test your image on. And I'm using a thin mount this time to use as a placeholder and to help get my image aligned to stamp. So with even pressure, just apply the ink. And I kind of do it light-handed, I would say more so, but then even pressure when I stamp the turkey image onto that board. And then you're going to come in and add the little floral elements, the little garland pieces I choose to frame the design. I also come in between each step and make sure to dry the ink, because I did not want to take a chance of it smudging or smearing, especially all the intricate details, and it came out so cute. So I suggest if you have an ink that needs a little dry time in between, take that step. I just love the way it came out. And once the stamping is all done, now it's the fun part, getting to add some vintage layers. So I bring back that stencil and I place it right back over the postcard frame. Now I'm showing you some different items here that you could come in with. You could come in with your waxes. You could come in with paint and softly sponge like you're stenciling to give that image, that dried heavy body gel, some color. You could come in with any of your butters, your jewels, whatever you have in your stash to give that some color. But I decide that I want to do some embossing. I really want to take this up to the vintage style postcards that I have gotten some in the past that have that foiling or that gold embossed look around it. So what I decide to use is my Versamark stamp pad. So what I do is I just give myself a little tray to work on to collect the embossing powder, and I just take the ink pad, the Versamark ink pad, and go over with the stencil in place and give that a really good even application of the Versamark ink onto that raised stencil. Next, you come in with the embossing powder. I do have, I believe, one bottle left, but I will be getting more in stock. I do have other shades. A copper would be beautiful. This one is a gold that I used. And I removed the stencil, and then you're going to tap off the extra powder right into that tray. You can pour that extra right back in the bottle for your next project. Sometimes another tip is I will get a soft paintbrush, bristled to soft bristled paintbrush, and dust it ever so lightly to make sure I get the extra embossing powder off before I heat set it. And don't forget to clean that stencil again to get that embossing powder off. Bring in your heat tool, and then you can heat it up and watch it transform. It gives that beautiful glossy raised effect, just like an old worn postcard. Another tip too is I realized while I'm doing this that I missed a couple spots. You can go ahead and apply that stencil right back over and do the same process really easily, and it made it look perfect. I love how it turned out. It was beautiful. So now I'm trying to decide what color I want to add to the edges to give it a finished look, give it more aging. And I come in with the gold wax, and then I do decide to add a very, very light-handed touch of a darker wax just to give it a little blending. I use my sponge. I'll put it on that mat, the silicone mat, get it so that there's hardly any on there, and just feather it on ever so lightly to finish the edge, and a little bit more with the gold to tie that in. But it just came out so darling. And as I was finishing up, I spotted some of the leftover bits of transfer foils that you see me use, and in past videos I've mentioned how I love having the little scraps of any of my transfers kept nearby, whether I'm paper crafting, doing mixed media, or doing decor pieces like this you're going to see. I found this little scrap of some of the gold foils, and I decide that it would be just the right touch, tucked right underneath the little turkey. It's just subtle, but it's in the shimmer, and it just catches it. It just brings the piece to life. You could go, I stopped at that, but this is where you could just add those little pieces in, and it just makes it, finishes it, and it makes it so much fun having to use them and to know that you're using up the entire transfer. So when I got this project all done, I stepped back and I realized how versatile and how fun this project could be. You could display this like in a wreath. You could do with the tier tray thing. You could add a hanger to it, to the back if you wanted to. You could add a beautiful ribbon, I was thinking, and make them into ornaments, wall decor, all the things. Beautiful. And you could certainly do this technique on a much larger decor piece. But it all started with a little scrap piece of wood. So born out of a moment when I was supposed to be cleaning, and instead I chose to create, I created this little vintage inspired postcard. That's the beauty of slow crafting. It's not about rushing through or aiming for perfection. It's about giving yourself permission to pause, play, and savor that season. If you'd like to make your own, I'll have these MDF rectangles in my shop along with the stamps, the gel, and the supplies I used today. And I'll link everything in the description below. If this inspired you, I'd love for you to like the video, leave me a comment sharing what you'd stamp on your postcard, and subscribe for more creative projects. And don't forget, likes, comments, shares, and shop purchases are all entered into my September giveaway, which runs through the 30th this month. Thank you so much for being here, for creating with me, and letting me share this story with you. Until next time, may your days be rooted in grace, creativity, and charm. Bye, folks.